Okay, we are live. Let's see if I can get Sally on here. Okay. We'll just play with some fun effects while we're waiting. Hi. I see Sally. Okay.
Hey,
Hi.
okay, that sounds better. Does it sound good and clear to you?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, nice. For
Great.
whatever Facebook likes when you start
I guess so. I have no idea why.
it. You're just like, happy Friday, happy Facebook Friday.
Happy Facebook Friday.
Yay. Well, I am excited to be chatting with you about cleaning products today.
Me too. I'm looking forward to this.
I think this is a topic that I get questions about pretty often. And
Hmm.
so it's kind of fun to tell the whole story and to get your input on all of this too.
Yeah.
So I can start off by telling you guys about kind of how I got into clean products, and I'd be curious for you to share your story too, Annie. So you want me to get going?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, awesome. And then just so you guys know, tuning in, we're going to talk about how we got to clean products, a little bit around why that matters, and then the solutions. So I've got lots of cleaning products on my table right now that I'm going to share, and I know Annie does too.
Yes.
So I feel like I kind of worked backwards on finding clean products, clean cleaning products. Um, and it was probably about 7 years ago when I had, or almost 8 years ago, my firstborn was in diapers. And one of my doctors had recommended that I, be particular about the types of diapers that I use. And so that's a whole other subject. But um, that was at the time that Honest Company was launching, believe it or not. And my mom told me about this company and was like, you need to check them out. And it's a subscription. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have to go to the store to buy diapers. This is so awesome. And I don't have to do cloth diapers. Like, this is a win. So, Honest, I think shortly after launched their non-toxic cleaning products. And I don't think I really knew what that meant. And I don't really think I knew like why it mattered. But I had a baby who was starting to crawl around on the floor and touching everything and putting things in his mouth. And so I'm like, yeah, I think I should buy those non-toxic cleaning products. And that was really kind of my start. They also offered kind of a sustainable option. I don't know if anybody shopped them. Do you remember they had their mini bottles, like the concentrate, and then you could make multiple bottles.
Hmm.
So it just seemed like a cool solution. And it wasn't until a few years later, really until I was introduced to Beautycounter, that I really understood more of the environmental impact. And I think oftentimes, we think about genetics impacting our health, but the environment really has so much to do with our impact on our health. And our environment in our home is one that we really have a choice over. Um,
Right.
what we bring into our home is something that we as moms have so much power over, which is cool. So um, the EPA actually has shared a statistic that just really sticks with me, which is that the air quality in the home is about 300 times more harmful than outdoors. So that just really, and now we're inside and home more than ever. So it just really speaks to, that importance to know what we are bringing into our home and what we're breathing in every single day, and when we're in that stage of babies, when our babies are being exposed to.
Exactly.
What about you?
Yes.
Your journey?
My journey started in a similar way. I think, especially when women are pregnant, we start thinking a lot more about what's going on our skin, what's going in our mouths, and then naturally, when you have the baby, you start figuring out what kind of diapers to use and those kind of things. So, same thing. I started using Honest Company diapers, and then I was like, okay, well, what about like what I'm putting on the baby's skin?
Yeah.
And then now the baby's in the bathtub. What am I washing my bathtub with? Like, oh my gosh, I can like smell how clean it smells in the bathroom. And all of a sudden it just felt like that wasn't right. And now I'm putting bubble bath in and what's in there. So I too used Honest Company for a long time. I liked their subscription. It was so simple. And, I really didn't know what chemicals were in my other products. So I just started really slowly researching what else we were cleaning our house with. And that journey kind of was in parallel to my journey as a dermatology PA, where I was often answering the question like, well, what should I switch to for this product or that? And more specifically, I was often telling patients, and still do, like, switch your laundry detergents for eczema, irritated sensitive skin, um, using fragrance-free products. And people often want just a recommendation.
Right.
But, I was often recommending fragrance-free products. And a lot of people don't know this, but fragrance-free, all that really means is that you can't smell anything. It doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't fragrance chemical in it. What they can do is actually put a fragrance masker in there as well. So now there's two chemicals. So for example, Tide Free and Clear
Yeah.
is actually has fragrance in it, and it has a second chemical called a fragrance masker, and that makes it not smell like anything. So
So you just
for
double city there.
yeah, exactly. So it's just sort of one example of kind of greenwashing. It says
Yeah.
it's free and clear, and that bottle is white and green. It's not like the red and orange. So we'll talk a little bit later, and I know we'll talk more about greenwashing, but that's just sort of the beginning of my journey professionally and personally, and it's certainly not over. It's one that I feel like I'm constantly looking at new products. Companies often are acquired, and then they change their disclosure practices. So, I've found some products that I love, and then I have to switch them up when I find out something seems different, or I find out that they've been acquired. Perhaps they're not disclosing their full list of ingredients, especially fragrances tends to be a big one. So
Yeah.
I think until better laws and regulations are passed, it's really up to us to be doing our homework. But it doesn't have to be complicated. I think
Right.
that you and I will be able to offer some tips and great solutions, and even some product recommendations here. So that's sort of my journey, but I guess we should start with, why all this matters.
Yeah. Okay. So what we've learned after the fact of making some of these changes, there's a number of serious health conditions that mounds of studies are showing evidence that are connected to the exposures of what's in these cleaning products. Annie, you mentioned, regulations. As it stands today, cleaning supplies do not have to disclose all of their ingredients. Not like we could really understand all of them, but if we wanted to figure it out, if somebody knows that they have an allergy, that's not required by law. Beautycounter helped as a part of advocating to change that law a couple years ago, which is passed. And so we're in this limbo period where we're working towards it, but I don't think it's effective until 2021 or 22. And so, but companies know that they have to make changes. And I feel like in the last year, even since that legislation, this cleaning products market has just exploded. I feel like every day I'm seeing a new option, which is great and exciting, but I think this is just reminding us that we need to really pay attention. But the serious health conditions that are linked to these include asthma, cancer, reproductive harm, and allergens. Those are the top 4 that I've learned about. And I really want to spend some time talking about asthma because this is something that impacts everyone, from pregnant to infant, children, adults, and people of color. We're all being exposed and are at risk to developing asthma. And this is one of the things that when we know better, we can do better. And it's as simple as making a switch and avoiding these toxic ingredients. But when we were kids, so we were born in the 80s, the likelihood of a child developing asthma was 1 in 30. And since we were kids, we're not that old, right? Our kids' risk is 1 in 10. And so that's really profound. And studies are linking that to exposures of cleaning products. Another study, which when I look at studies, I really want to make sure they're like solid studies. It's not like they took 10 people. And this, it seems like the asthma category of serious illness, it's been really thoroughly researched. So there was a study conducted across 10 different countries. So they were trying to rule out, various different factors there. They studied healthy adults for a period of 9 years that used aerosol spray, air freshener, things that had the chemical propellant, fragrance, and they saw that the risk of developing asthma in those 9 years was 30 to 50%. And these started out as healthy individuals. So it just goes to say that the environment, the air we breathe every single day is really impacting us. And I think this all just boils down to the fact that many of our cleaning products can be lung irritants. And I think in the world that we're living in right now with COVID, we want to make sure our lung health is particularly top notch and that we're not doing anything to potentially irritate that. In addition to reducing or suppressing our immune system. So that is what stood out to me about asthma that I wanted to pass along. Quickly touching on carcinogens. So formaldehyde is an interesting one that they are finding, an ingredient that's found in cleaning products. It's not that a cleaning company is putting formaldehyde in, it's that there are preservatives that have a chemical reaction that emit formaldehyde. And so it's a chemical reaction. A study was testing 3, and I'm going to call these companies out because I think it's important that we know what to look for. I've used all of these in the past. Comet, Pine Sol, and Simple Green cleaning products were all found to have formaldehyde. And there's a chemical reaction that happens with citrus and pine-based ingredients. So, maybe best of intentions, but maybe these companies didn't have testing protocols to see what the chemical reaction was going to emit, unknowingly exposing their consumers to formaldehyde, which is a known carcinogen. An area of opportunity that I found in the carcinogen category is there's still a lot of questions around the environmental impact as it pertains to cleaning products and the risk of breast cancer. There were some early studies, small group studies that found a correlation that seemed to indicate that there was a higher risk, but it really looked like it was small and it needs to be replicated and expanded upon. And so this is an area, as we see throughout environmental health and chemical exposure, that there needs to be more research done. But I think in the meantime, you can fall upon the precautionary principle of finding a safer option that's going to work and just simply avoid it because of all the other risks. Can you speak to the allergens and irritants that the cleaners are going to cause and increase our likeliness to?
Yeah, certainly. So, certainly the properties that make some of these chemicals a true disinfectant versus a cleanser and making them more effective are so incredibly harsh against delicate skin tissue. It can cause painful irritation of the skin, eyes, nose, throat, and lungs. And there's really good research for those that are actively cleaning houses or apartments or schools all day, those that are in the industry of cleaning, and their exposure is so much that there's been really good, and again, you have to make sure you're looking at really good multi-year studies, and there's some really good studies that show as many as 20% of female cleaning workers develop skin allergies from the products they're using, and then nearly 1 in 3 are getting that result of inflamed, itchy, red skin. So these things can happen not only to people that are working in the industry, but also those that are exposed to areas that are cleaned. So our houses being cleaned, of course, is probably first and foremost right now because we're home, but our workplaces, think about our schools and our preschools and our daycares, and volatile chemicals can actually stay in the air for 20 minutes. So, keeping the windows open and leaving fresh air after an area has been cleaned is a first step. But there's other things too that we can do, to increase the purification of our air, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But from an irritant standpoint, there are so many different chemicals that are used in products now that it becomes a little bit tricky to figure out what, in fact, could the culprit be. But Sally and I'll go through some of the more major culprits. They don't even have to be an allergen necessarily. An allergen means you truly have an allergy to it. An irritant means that it's so harsh that it irritates the skin. Um, in dermatology, we see so much allergy. And certainly one of the top allergens is formaldehyde. So we're testing for that in our patients, and we see that often. The other things that we test for are things we're physically coming into contact with that we see mostly in personal care products, but also in our cleaners. So there's a lot of advice that we have to give in dermatology about making safer switches. So
That's so interesting to know that formaldehyde was an allergen.
Yeah, I actually have an allergy to it. And the way we typically develop an allergy to it is by overuse or overexposure. So for many, many years, you're exposed to the product, and then your body just says enough is enough and can mount reaction against it. I wanted to say one more thing about that, but I can't remember. Oh, I was going to say really quick about disinfectants versus like cleaning.
Yes.
Is that a lot of times disinfectants work so well because they are so harsh and there's so many chemicals in them, and we don't always have to use disinfectants. In fact, cleaning surfaces can often be enough to get rid of harmful bacteria and viruses even. It's usually the length of exposure that we leave a cleaner or cleanser on the surface, and it depends on how porous the surface is, to where it becomes a disinfectant. So you don't always have to, what I'm saying is you don't always have to use a disinfectant to disinfect. You can actually get away with, and washing
for 5 seconds.
Right.
Versus washing your hands for 20 seconds. You're going to have a different.
Exactly. It's the same exact concept. Yeah.
I think that's really important to think about. And, we're all, I think there's been a hyper sensitivity to cleaning surfaces. And so it's important that we make educated decisions, but we're not doing that in fear.
Yes. Thank you, Lindsay.
No, you got here for the good part.
Yeah, exactly. You're here right at the right time. We're going to start talking about what we can do and what to look out for.
Yeah, so let's dive into some of the solutions and how do we keep this simple and make it so it's not overwhelming to avoid these harmful ingredients. I think we all can agree we want to minimize our exposure to all of this.
Yes, certainly. So let's talk about greenwashing first. What is greenwashing?
Okay, so greenwashing is the concept that you look at a product, which is, I don't know the stat, I don't remember the stat anymore, but I want to say like 80% of consumers, don't hold me to that, make a decision by simply looking at the front of the packaging. They don't actually turn it over. So companies know that, and they've gotten smart, and they've seen that we are shifting towards clean. Legislation is shifting towards clean and disclosures. And so you're going to see something that says clean, or it's going to have green packaging, or it's going to have a picture of a plant on it. And sometimes those are good, but these are things that make us think in our mind. It's like that psychology that we are making a really safe choice here. And, or an example is made with organic ingredients. Well, maybe it's only 5% organic, and so I've certainly fallen victim to it. I want to say I fell victim to it to deodorant recently. I was like quick in the store. I needed something fast. I was in a store that I don't normally shop, and I got home and found fragrance, and I returned. I'm not putting that on my body. So I think the other thing is brands try to do a good job across the board, but not every product that a clean brand is consistently safe across the board. Maybe they make one version without formaldehyde, but then they have others that do. So it really just requires that we pay a little bit more attention and we don't just look at the front of the bottle. Well, how else would you add to that, Annie?
Yeah, no, I think that's really true. It happened to us recently. My husband thought we had to have soap that said antibacterial on it because of COVID.
Right.
And so I bought Dial soap, and not to call it a brand, but I was like, we're not using this. And then I also found myself stuck at a store, and I meant to bring it in here to show, but it's called Raw Sugar, and it's a hand soap, and they make body wash as well. And yes, Lindsay, thank goodness for the EWG app. I take that into stores and I try to just scan right there. But now when I'm in stores, I'm like, try not to be in there very long, and I really want to know like what I need ahead of time. Or you're having someone else do your shopping for you and delivering it, and they switch it out. So it's certainly difficult, because like you said, if it's one brand and they switch to another product, you might still get something that you're actually not looking for. But this product is called Raw Sugar, and I honestly don't know a whole lot about it except for what's in there. But their marketing is great. The top of it looks wooden, so it looks like really natural. It says raw on it, so like how bad can something raw be? And then it has the words like aloe on there and naturally derived, and you often see those types of words that are kind of buzzwords. So greenwashing is really that sort of subconscious thing that's happening in marketing, really, and branding, that is trying to make us feel like we're making a good decision in our purchases. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that. So greenwashing means that it's actually not natural, or it's not actually necessarily safe, or it may have products that are known to be harmful to human health. There are certainly products that use those buzzwords that are correct in using those buzzwords. So what's that?
Which is what makes it so confusing.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, so it's really a matter of doing our homework, and we'll offer some easy ways to make this happen because it does not have to be overwhelming. That's why I love to just turn to brands that I know and then go from there. Like I know that Beautycounter is a great brand for my personal care products and my makeup, and I really stray from there. I know a few other brands that Sally and I will mention that are great for our cleaning agents. So it's nice to start to become kind of brand loyalist and vote with our dollars that way.
100%. I think also being aware of the types of packaging of products or dispensing can be harmful. So aerosol is definitely one of those because there's a chemical propellant to get that into the air, which is part of what is irritating to our lungs. So it comes in an aerosol spray. So that knocks out like Lysol and those air fresheners. So we want to avoid that type of product packaging. And you also really want to make sure if you're going to look at one ingredient, fragrance. Fragrance is what you want to make sure you avoid. What's tricky is that some companies are saying naturally derived fragrance, but they're not disclosing what those are. And technically by law, they don't have to. It's considered trade secret under law in the United States, cleaning and for personal care products, which is something that we are working to change. But I would really prefer to vote with my dollars for brands that have a naturally derived fragrance, for example, and then list, citrus oil and rosemary extract and, whatever those details are. I just appreciate that transparency.
Definitely.
Okay, so Lindsay talked about EWG. I love it. There's the app on our phone. There's also the website, and the website, if you have access to a computer, is wonderful. You can go to ewg.org/guides/cleaners, and it's a specific page all for cleaning products. It has a slightly different rating system than the personal care products. It's A through F, and you can just play around in there. So if you're just getting started on this topic, that's a great place to go. Take inventory with what you're using today. Prioritize the most toxic things, the things you use the most. Think about your daily. What are your kids touching? What are you washing your dishes in? What are you washing your clothes in? Those are, you're getting the most exposure. And start there. I also just want to mention, because Anna, you talked about cleaning products in schools and preschools, and I think this is an area that is just one more thing for moms to be thinking about right now. So if you are watching this and you have kids that are going to be going back to school in person, and you want to start a conversation with the preschool or school around what they're cleaning with, EWG has some really good guides on how to start that conversation. And maybe some of the products that Andy and I are talking about would be possible solutions. I am finding that there are schools out there who are taking the approach that they're not going to go for bleach because they have this understanding of what these chemicals do. But there's a different school of thought. And so that's a tool I just wanted to point to you guys, because I know that's something that we're all thinking about.
Exactly. And two other things too, beyond what we're using, is how to purify our air. And this could be a whole separate talk, but there are so many house plants that are wonderful at purifying our air. And I think as we spend more and more time at home, it is so important to think about having really good house plants to help purify the air, and then air purifiers, of course. So there's so many choices. Sally and I can give you kind of our thoughts, but those two things I think are also really important. We used a home air purifier when we started using that when the wildfires in California were happening a few years ago, and it really makes a big difference. Also making sure that your curtains get washed and your carpets are vacuumed, and using HEPA filters. All of those things really improve the air quality inside our homes.
Yeah. And you touched on this at the beginning, but ventilation is so important. And I know that it's coming up more and more regarding COVID and being in places that have good ventilation. Same thing is true in our homes. One of the best things to do that is completely free is open our windows and doors. And that natural airflow is just, consider that like nature's purification process.
Exactly. I recently read that if our gas stoves that are in our homes were outside, they would actually be heavily regulated by the EPA because of the toxicity and the fumes that they produce. And so these are something that are actually in our home. So they're not regulated by the EPA. It's a different standard. So I'm recommending turning on a fan and opening a window nearby, even when you have the burner on low. It's something that we have to start thinking about there too.
That's a great tip, because you are being exposed to.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Should we start talking about what we're using?
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. So what's your go-to for cleaning your house?
Okay. So a couple of things. I'll start with, if you want to be, DIY, and I've been, gone ebbed and flowed in stages of my life where I want to be like that more times than on. Water, vinegar, lemon are wonderful, super inexpensive, effective cleaners. I recommend getting something like an amber jar. I got this from Amazon, and you can do like a half ratio. If you're concerned with viruses, if people are getting sick in your home, if flu season comes, and you want to be a little bit like up, turn up the notch of disinfectant. The other thing you could do is, instead of vinegar, do a 50% ratio hydrogen peroxide to water. The thing is, you don't want to mix vinegar and hydrogen peroxide because that makes water. I looked it up.
Yeah.
But hydrogen peroxide, especially when left on for about 10 minutes, is a great option. And believe it or not, hospitals use that. And the company Clorox even offers Clorox wipes made with hydrogen peroxide instead of bleach. So
Yeah.
those were all very comforting to me with hydrogen peroxide.
There's no way to get them right now, but
Right.
those are something I've always had on hand. I love them. They're the cleanest of the products that Clorox makes, but
And
they
they
are hot.
no scent. Like there's not that like, whew, you
Yeah,
know,
not that Clorox smell.
right. Yeah. So those are two of my favorite. And I get I think it's the 3% hydrogen peroxide. You can get it at Whole Foods or Sprouts or it's super inexpensive. You can also go with Castile soap, like Dr. Bronner's.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that. I kind of started my journey with making my own laundry detergent using that.
Yeah.
Fun because I had the time to do it. I've moved away from that recently. Time has not been of the excess. So that is where I have started using Ranch Basics. And this works kind of how Honest Company works. I purchase the concentrate, which is this full bottle, and then use it, and then you get a kit with all these empty bottles. And so this is my laundry detergent, my glass cleaner, an all-purpose cleaner, and then specifically for the bathroom.
So that all comes from the one concentrate bottle?
Yes.
That's awesome.
So
and then are you using proportions of water in each of them, or?
Yes, exactly. So each of them have the measuring on the side. So for the laundry detergent, I fill it up to here with water and then here with the soap.
Okay.
And they each have different levels. Where's this one?
Great.
So, and then I can also make foaming hand soap, which I liked with the kiddos. So this has been a really good option. It's not scented, which is nice. I'll add my own essential oils if I want my laundry to be, scented like lavender. And then for the bathroom, I add tea tree oil because I've got 2 little boys who are now in the bathroom all day.
Yeah. I was going to say, which is tea tree oil, is an awesome disinfectant.
Yes.
So that's a good one to put into any household cleanser.
Yes. Yeah, that's an asset. So that's like the house cleaning. And then I use, this has been my go-to for laundry or for dishwasher. I will admit, I think it's rated like a B or maybe a C, but I think it works really well.
It does work really well. I actually use the same brand, and this is where there can be differences within the brand, because I was just double checking I'm going to go live. I'm just going to double check all mine real quick to make sure there's not some sneaky C's or D's in here.
Right.
So I also use 7th generation for dishwashing detergent. I use the box that comes with powder, and there's no scent to it. And I find that it works really well. I mean, I've filled up my entire little area that powder goes into and the pre-wash, but I think it gets full load dishes really, really well.
That's awesome. So that's where maybe we need to experiment with another brand. I had a friend who's into clean living recommend this one. Have you tried it?
The dishwashing detergent, I don't feel works as well, but I love
their soap. Okay, cool. It came, look how it came dented, but I'm going to give it a try.
Yeah. It worked fine, but I wouldn't say it was as powerful
as the 7th generation. Yeah. Okay, cool. That's so good to know. And that's why this is so fun to be able to have the dialogue and the feedback. The last thing I was just going to share, and then I want to hear yours. Everspring has popped up at Target.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And the thing these are multi-surface cleaning wipes. The scent is lavender bergamot, which I love that one.
Yeah.
But these wipes are compostable, and something about Clorox wipes, for example, they're not compostable. So there's so much waste in using surface wipes.
Right.
And I love this move of sustainability and cleaning, and it still has clean ingredients. They specifically call out what's in their fragrance, like I was talking about. So I like this as a solution if you are looking for wipes. I'm very sparse on when I use them. I cherish them. They also
Yes.
make little room deodorizers that are sticks that are
Oh, neat.
pre-scented with um, oils, and it's the same brand. So that's another brand if you're at Target.
Oh, that's great. I was curious about them because I wasn't sure if that was a good choice or greenwashing, and I didn't look into it. So to hear
Yeah,
that it's a good.
with the products that I looked at, those are thumbs up for me. But tell me, you have used some other ones that I haven't, so I want to hear about those.
Yeah. So I should show you what's actually happening over here. My
Oh my God.
puppy and all my laundry detergents.
Oh, you don't know. So cute.
But yeah, I use so I brought all my laundry stuff, which I'll tell you about, but I use Force of Nature, which I'm not sure if you've heard about, but this is actually electrolyzed water technology. It comes from the industrial space where it's used a lot. Basically, it is little capsules that you get in the mail, and I didn't bring those in here. They're teeny tiny, they're like this big, and you squeeze in the solution and you fill up this container with distilled water, and then you plug it in and push go, and it electrolyzes the water. So basically, it's converting um, water, salt, and vinegar with an electrical current into hypochlorous acid and sodium hydroxide. And hypochlorous acid is something our immune system naturally makes and kills germs. Hypochlorous acid we use a lot at really, really low percentages for wound debridement and antibacterial, anti-itch, all sorts of things in the skin. There's many prescription products that use hypochlorous acid, and it's used in hospital settings to kill bacteria. So that's what it turns into. It also turns into sodium hydroxide, which is a common detergent that you'll find in toothpaste and skincare and other cleansers. But it's like there's like 7 zeros before 0.703 percent. So it's teeny, teeny, tiny. And it's super effective at being a cleanser. So it's really neat. The thing is, you're not going to find this product like this sitting on the shelf because it's unstable. It only lasts about 2 weeks. So if you think about it, like the little teeny tiny bubbles, those dissipate after a couple of weeks, and then it doesn't become effective anymore. But it's incredibly sustainable in that you get one bottle like this. This lasts about 2 weeks. They purposely did that. So what's the solution that's in there lasts 2 weeks, and this bottle usually lasts me about 2 weeks to clean all my kitchen table, chairs. I even use this to clean the floors, the sinks, any kind of handles. I use that at least once or twice a week to clean. So that's my go-to everyday cleaner.
And I think that I know that they were also recently added as approved for killing COVID. So
Yeah.
that recommendations, when I was talking to our preschool, that they were considering in place of bleach.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I will say it does have a like really, really mild hint of what would smell like bleach, which is what hypochlorous acid does smell like.
Okay,
But it goes away really quickly, and it's nowhere as overwhelming as bleach is.
that's awesome. Yeah, I've been really excited to try. Maybe when I run out of one of these other
Yeah, exactly. And now the good news is there's so many um, great options.
there
I will
are.
say,
Yeah,
yeah. So for my laundry, I use a lot of different things, and I have been trying to get away from stuff like this that come in big um, plastic bottles. But
right.
I will say this is Thieves, which is by Young Living, and it's an essential oil infused laundry soap. But you can see on there it's free of all of these things, which is great. Um, and this one you can actually cut. So I usually do half distilled water and half this. It's incredibly potent. The other one I've stumbled upon recently is called Humble Suds, and I'm loving this brand for laundry. And it smells really good, and they come in paper bags, which I love.
Oh,
Um, Also had a really great hand sanitizer that I've been using, and then I think they have a couple other products that I'd like to start trying. Um, and then I use wool dryer balls. I think you do too. instead of dryer sheets, and does a great job of getting rid of any static electricity. And I often spray like a mixture of witch hazel with essential oils on here to help make my laundry smell good.
I love that. Yeah. Dryer sheets are super loaded with chemicals and fragrance, and so that's a great thing to ditch. And the walls, they actually help absorb moisture. So
Yeah,
theory is it's on a dry time.
exactly.
Um,
How many do you use for dryer?
I use 4.
Me too.
Yeah. And I've heard some people have issues with static. I haven't, but I've heard that you can attach a safety pin and
Oh,
something metal with the wool, like makes it
oh,
neutral.
I like that. I'll
Isn't that
try
cool?
that. Yeah.
Um, I love that you actually brought up Thieves because I love their cleaning, like all surface cleaning concentrate too.
Yeah, I have that as well. I like that a lot. And I often diffuse their oil in distilled water in a diffuser. And that is a great antiviral, antibacterial just to cleanse the air of your home. So
For
I
sure.
often like all day
Yeah.
long.
The Branch Basics and Force of Nature, have no scent to them. And that can be hard when you're used to having something that's fragranced. So I think
Right.
really nice transition in there because it does have that kind of spicy.
Yeah, it kind of has a cinnamon type smell to it.
Yeah, if you like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of these.
Yeah, you too. I feel like I learned a lot too.
Ditto. I can share my link to Branch Basics down in comments if you want to share your link to Force of Nature. Is that what it's called? Force of
Sure.
Nature.
I'm
Um,
happy to.
and then if you guys are watching this back, please let us know if you have any other questions. If you scan some of your products or check them out and you see a rating that you want to maybe share with us, post that in the comments. Or if you have questions, let us know. Happy to be a resource. And I think this is part of the journey of paying attention to how we can avoid those harmful ingredients that we're coming in contact with on a daily basis. I think next week, Annie and I want to do the same thing in conversation around your bathroom and personal care products. We'll probably scan some products, invite you guys to do the same so we can start thinking about safety by room and the way in which you're using them.
Sounds great. This was really helpful and informative. Thanks, Sally.
Thank you so much. I love it. You guys all got an inside scoop of how Annie and I like to catch up.
Yes, exactly. Once a week on Fridays.
Awesome.
All right.
Everyone.
Take care. Thank you.